Hello and welcome back to the Claret Blue podcast, sponsored by NordVPN. All the information you need about Nord is in the description down below. On today's podcast, I'm going to be talking Walsall with Matt Kendrick and John Townley, the third of us together for the first time in a while. Now, we're not doing post-match lives, obviously. This is coming out the day after the game. The reason for that is because it's pre-season. It doesn't really matter, especially these early games. We will learn a little bit more as we head into the latter stages of pre-season and heading into the new Premier League season. Bilbao and Dortmund are the two, aren't they, John, that we're looking at as we will learn more from those games. Walsall is two different 11s, 45 minutes each, very random, very kind of, I've seen other clubs refer to them as warm-up matches, which I quite like, rather than pre-season fixtures, because it makes it sound less formal, which I like. So we've seen the game. John, you were there. We'll talk about it, but not in the sense of, in the 5th minute this happened, and in the 25th minute this happened. There were several talking points. This video is titled 8 Things We Learned After Villa Beat Walsall, or things that we spotted, or things that we wanted to talk about. And we're going to go through those as a list this afternoon. Matt, how are you? It's been a while.
It's been a while since you started that intro, hasn't it? Bloody hell.
Sorry.
I'm all right, mate. I'm looking forward to learning 8 things from the Walsall match. So I hope John's got plenty to say, but I'll hover around the edges and give my thoughts on the pre-season so far. Can't believe it's pre-season already. I know we've had an international tournament, but it doesn't feel like football stopped.
So let's get into these 8 things then, John. I know that you're well. We speak all the time. We did a podcast yesterday. Let's get straight into it. The first thing that I say learn's the wrong word, but it makes for a good title. The first thing I've got on our list of things to talk about is that it's just really nice to have Villa back, isn't it? Seeing Unai Emery get off the coach, seeing us saying our new Adidas training wear and special one-off kit that we'll get onto later. And just this nice, cosy, familiar feeling of Walsall versus Aston Villa. So it's a pre-season staple, isn't it, John? It's nice to have it there.
Strange that we did it on a night. I don't remember the last time we did it on a night. At least last season, anyway, it was a Saturday. And I didn't know I think we drew that game last season, which I was completely oblivious to, even though I was there. I just presumed every season we went to Walsall and won 3-4, 5-0. And I was thinking, what if we draw today? Well, will there be a bit of unrest, which would be completely stupid. But that was last season anyway. I just completely forgot. But yeah, nice to be back amongst it. It doesn't feel like we were gone for long, even though Palace seems like a long time ago. Weirdly, it's come around very quickly, and West Ham will be here before you know it as well. So, looking forward to the new season now, and it's difficult to take much away from the game because, as you said, two different 11s, lots of youngsters on the pitch as well, players who won't be at Villa next season anyway. So not a whole lot you can take from it, but it's nice to see some of the new signings. Barkley as well, obviously in the first half. But yeah, nothing to really take from it in terms of system or shape. The left back was still playing as a winger. The left winger was tucked inside. The right winger was hugging the byline. So yeah, very similar to what it was last season, really. So it felt more of a fitness exercise more than anything else.
Which is why I like the idea of warm-up matches. It's a glorified training thing, isn't it? It's an 11v11v training, basically. That's why we're not going to read too much into it, although we are going to talk about some individual players throughout this list. But first one, Matt, it is just nice to be back, isn't it? I know you said at the start, it feels like we've never been away, but seeing us back, new stuff, new pictures, it all just feels like we're on the eve of we're on the eve of a new season. Yeah,
it's got that feel. The Walsall one particular, it's got that feel of like back to school, hasn't it? When you get your new pencil case and your new bag, and you'd have to get to. What's the one in Halzoe? It's
Dancers.
Dancers, yeah. It used to be Oakses that we used to go in Langley, but you go there and you get your uniform and your pleated trousers and all that kind of stuff. So
such a niche reference for an Aston Villa podcast that is, across the UK and across the world.
I'm sure they've got their own equivalents of these shops, haven't they? Yeah. But Walsall away in a friendly is very much the equivalent of, okay, we're back in business. Let's, we're going to get onto the kit, aren't we, in a bit? But let's make sure we've got all our kit and all our uniform ready.
Seeing as you mentioned dancers and kind of being ready and getting everything ready for the new season, getting everything ready for the new school year. Not quite ready with the new kits just yet, as some expected this may be the case. There was a little bits of rumours before Walsall that it was not going to be ready in time for that game and the Saturday game as well in Slovakia. They'd play in a special one-off limited edition kit that would not be available to buy, but the proceeds would be auctioned off. They'd be auctioned off and the proceeds donated to charity, which is a great thing for the club to do. But in a roundabout way, It's just that the kits weren't ready. The kits are not ready yet. The kit launch will be the 23rd of July, as I'm sure everyone has seen. And we'll be talking about that next week with Rob Warner, our kind of resident kit expert. But back to the kit itself, John, obviously you were there in the flesh last night. A lot of people kind of, if you take away the charity element of it, which obviously is a good thing, a lot of people kind of jibing and joking about, well, it's basically the very, very basic Adidas template with the Villa badge thrown on it. But nice to see, I guess, that the charity element. Was it physically nice as well? Is the kit good? Are you going to put a bid on it potentially?
Potentially. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know why there was any discussion about, or I don't know if it was criticism. I couldn't really tell, to be honest, on Twitter about, they just found it on Sports Direct or whatever. What did you expect? It's a temporary kit, literally for the space of like 4 days. They're not going to make a flashy new kit that no one can buy and then they don't use, and then all of a sudden it was better than the way that we're actually going to get. Like, that's never going to be the case. The new kits are going to be the best version of the kits that we have this season. It's not going to be for the two matches, but I think it was a decent kit. It wasn't very Villa, was it? I think it's black. The kind of the different accents. At first, I thought it was like navy, which would be a bit more Villa, maybe.
How did Ashley Williams and Michu play, by the way? I didn't mind it, actually. I didn't mind it. I wouldn't, but this is me. Yeah, he looked all right.
Yeah, it's a cheap template with a Villa badge on, as we knew it was going to be. The charity side of it is very good, and that's a nice thing for them to do. Yeah. They could have played in some kind of training wear and just gone, we don't care, it's a couple of games, whatever. The fact that people will bid on these and want them, kit collectors and whatnot, will want them as a special edition. There's only 20 odd made, and that money goes to charity is obviously a good thing. I'm not.
I think they should have gone for the lost property box. Rock up at school on the first day without your PE kit, mate. You're gonna have to get those skiddy, sweaty kind of things that have been there for 4 years, aren't you?
Number 3 on the list is about personnel that were available during the game or not available. More so, we'll talk first about the players that were returning from long-term injury. John, Buendia was the one that we thought might be involved in the squad and actually play some minutes as well. He wasn't even in the squad. Jacob Ramsey also wasn't, and neither were Tyrone Mings. Much less surprised about Tyrone Mings. Well, I think most people now suspect he's going to be a little bit later along in terms of his recovery process. Ramsey has obviously been pictured quite a lot in training, so he was maybe on the verge of being in it. But Buendia's been around training for quite a while now, and I was quite surprised not to see him. No updates from the club. They don't do press conferences and stuff for warm-up games. But were you surprised not to see Buendia not get any minutes?
I don't know about surprised, because we know the extent of his injury, so it was more of a case of, well, hopefully he is, but if he's not, we all know why. Do you know what I mean? It was kind of the perfect game for him to have played in, because it was, as you say, it was a warm-up match, really. They could have probably done that at Bodymore, kind of 11 Villa players against 11 Villa players, so I don't actually think he missed anything, really. And to be fair, there was a couple of crunching tackles from Walsall players, a couple of late ones on Caden Young by, I think, the same player. One of them, he went straight into the kind of advertising boards and nearly took out one of the, I was about to say ball boy, it was a girl, also a ball girl, by the Villa fans, which was, a bit rash. But no, Buendia, I don't know exactly when he'll be back. And obviously he's been in training, to say, for months now, kind of progressively loading himself back up. So, don't know when he's going to be back. Will he go to America? Hopefully, because he's been in training for so long already. You'd expect him to be an American. Hopefully he can be playing some matches over there and definitely be playing before the start of the new season. Mings, he's going to be later down the line, isn't he? I don't think he's returned to full training with the squad yet. Obviously, he's been in the gym. But Emery has to take every precaution. Again, I don't think it's imperative that these players are playing straight away in the first month of the season. We only play 3 games in August, don't we? Or 2, maybe. Same for September. So it's quite a slow start to the season as such. So there's plenty of time for them to kind of get back. We do need them, because we do need depth, especially Mings. We don't have another left-sided centre-back, do we? But Ramsey as well. Kind of no date specifically, but there's no need to rush them at the very start of pre-season.
John and I have spoken a lot about Moussa Diaby on the podcast over the last week or so, and his imminent departure to Al Ittihad for around 60 million euros is what has been the talk over the last day or so. Matt, you've not spoken about this because you've not been on. Diaby, point number 4, not in the squad for Walsall. What did you make of that transfer away? Do you think it's a good deal for us? Would you rather keep him? What's your perspective on this whole story?
in the olden days, that would have meant that there was a new bomb squad being formed. I think if you weren't in the squad, you were going to be training with the under-23s. But now with Villa's wheeling and dealing, it points to the fact that, yeah, he's on his way. I'm a little bit disappointed, a little bit frustrated. I don't think we saw the best of him. I used Bailey as the barometer. That it took Bailey a couple of years before he got up to speed to become the player that we saw him last year, whether that was in terms of the impact that he was having on games and making himself physically durable enough to get through the Premier League season and Villa's other commitments. So I was hoping that Bailey could lead by example and then that we'd eventually see Diaby start to shine for Villa. But, all of us have spoken a lot about Villa's manoeuvring in terms of what they're doing financially. And I think that if Villa do think that they can make that kind of return on somebody who didn't quite live up to expectation, and that can allow the budget to be spent elsewhere, then it comes back to my usual trust Emery, trust Monchi kind of narrative. But I think it's frustrating. I don't want to start kind of battering other leagues, but I find it disappointing when players who should be, well short of their prime and still with lots to give, go and take the dollar elsewhere. But like I said, Villa wouldn't, if it didn't make sense for Emery, he wouldn't entertain the idea. So it's tinged with a little bit of disappointment because I think we've got a cracking player there who's still got lots of unfulfilled potential. But as ever, I back the blokes in charge to make that right decision and to use the funds, realign the funds in probably an exciting and effective way, really.
Me and John have also spoken a lot about kind of his replacement, if you like, or maybe lack of replacement. Obviously, Jadon Philogene is on his way back, may even be officially confirmed by the time this episode drops. Ollie Watkins is the main man. Duran is there for the moment, but looks like he could leave and he will be replaced by somebody else as well. Cameron Archer did play against Walsall, which won't say it surprised me, but we've not really spoken about Archer in any of our transfer roundups because we keep being asked why have you not included him. Maybe he does surprise me and he sticks around this year and plays a part, and he's a backup option for centre forward. But to me, I just feel if he was just deemed surplus to requirements last year, surely he still is, and if an offer is there for him, he will leave again. It's always been my thinking, but obviously things do change. Would you see it, Matt, as Watkins is obviously your main man, Bailey and Philogene play on the right, if Duran goes and Diaby go, you maybe spend, 50 million on a new kind of number 9/number 10 who can play with Watkins, but also replace him in an injury crisis.
I mean, potentially there's a lot of moving pieces there, isn't there? I mean, we've mentioned Buendia as well, who, I know he's better centrally, but can operate on either flank. We've got Jacob Ramsey. His return will mean that probably frees up Morgan Rogers to play further forward. I still think that, I know we'll probably touch on Morgan Rogers soon, but I still think Morgan Rogers is being lined up as the natural replacement or competition and cover for Ollie Watkins as a centre forward. I think we can play him in that role. So it's a difficult one. I mean, like the Philogene one's really, really fascinating, isn't it? To see, what could he be like? We've seen glimmers of him, but we've not really seen whether he can really cut it at the high level where Villa are now. I don't know what you get for 15 million quid nowadays, to be honest. I think if Villa, it depends what we think of the priority positions. We've spoken there that we possibly need another centre half as well. Does that become more of a priority position to go and reinforce with, spending top dollar on that than it does, other than Emery kind of mixing and matching his forward options with what he's already got? And then the Duran one, that's still, I mean, what's the latest with that? Is that still likely to, I should imagine West Ham was the one. I should imagine I can't see Duran starting the season with Aston Villa, can you?
I can't see Duran staying around. Villa obviously want to cash in on him, but it just depends what club can pay that money, because it is a lot of money for a player who is not the final product yet. But I'm with the Diaby stuff. I think I've mentioned it before. I think we will replace him, but not directly. I think it will just be a player that kind of fits Diaby and Duran. So Duran and Diaby go for 90 million pounds combined or thereabouts, and then you probably bring in a player that can do both of those roles, that kind of link man between Watkins, but also can play, as Matt said, a player kind of what Rogers could become, someone who can also play up front. That kind of screams João Felix as one option. Obviously, Villa have an interest in him. I don't know exactly how much it'd cost, but Villa wouldn't be spending 90 million on Felix, would they? So they're making money off that, if that makes sense, kind of selling two and then buying one. I'll have a piece in the morning that basically explains Villa's squad depth at the moment, kind of, at least in the Champions League terms. The Premier League terms will be fine because we're obviously not going to exceed Premier League rules, but Champions League's a bit more stricter. You have to kind of reduce your squad ever so slightly because of club trained players. Philogene, I believe he'll be a club trained player because he was at Villa for 3 years, obviously coming through their academy. But then they've bought him back. I don't think there's a rule that says that you can't play him as a club trained player now because you've sold him and then bought him back. I wouldn't have thought that's the case. That would be stupid if so. So I'd have thought he would be with Ramsey, 2 of the 4 club trained players that we have, which basically takes our squad size to 23 out of the 25. Previously, it would have been 22 out of 25 when we did that video, Dan. So we've basically gained a place, which is technically Onana. But then if we buy someone to replace Duran and Diaby, then we're going to have one more over the limit again. So it makes total sense to me that we would sell Diaby and Duran and then bring in a striker who can basically, cover for Watkins, but also play that role, that kind of support act role that Diaby was playing as well. I just can't see us buying another right winger and then Philogene coming back. I just can't see it.
Diaby wasn't an unimportant player. He wasn't a fringe player. He contributed fairly well in terms of goals and assists for a first season.
54 games as well.
He was the only player to play in every Premier League game. I think he started 25 and featured in all of the others. So he was a mainstay in Emery's side last year. This isn't somebody who played 10 games. Probably, like Duran, I think he played 20 odd, I think, with sub appearances. That's a player where you think 35 million for someone who scored a couple of important goals, but isn't the finished product. Like, that's fine to do that. Diaby is important, but the money's good and it gets the wages off the books. And if Villa can replace those 2 players with one who can start in the team every week and also push further forward and cover for Watkins if he's injured, that feels like smart business.
I think the Diaby thing just underlines how clinical and how business-like this Villa footballing regime is now, because there's absolutely no room for sentiment. And if in the Venn diagram it makes business sense and football sense, then Villa will swoop on it and make it happen. And it probably it factors into, it has been revolution rather than evolution with Emery, and this just shows it. We're moving fast, and either you've got to keep up with us, basically. And I'm not saying that they were so cruel that they would have dismissed Diaby after one season of perhaps slight underachievement, but I just think it's a real signal that this Villa regime wants us to go places and probably maintain the pace of progression that we've already gone on in the last 18 months, which, if you consider what that is, that's a remarkable kind of ambition and a remarkable, tunnel vision really on what we can go and achieve.
Let's talk about Morgan Rogers then, somebody who else has come on massively in the last 6 months, I guess. Matt, you said earlier in regards to Philogene, what does 15 million buy you these days? Somebody of Morgan Rogers' talent from the Championship is what that price gets you. Somebody who looks to have grown as a player hugely since he joined. Somebody that can play off the left, can play behind the striker, can play as a striker. I think we're seeing somebody who's got great finishing ability, great physical profile, can carry the ball forward. He looks really good, and he's absolutely only going to get better. I tweeted during the game last night the clip of Rio Ferdinand screaming Ballon d'Or. Like, this would be watching Morgan Rogers rip apart a League Two team in a meaningless friendly. But he's so good and so exciting, and he's a player that gets bums off seats, isn't he? Picks up the ball, carries it forward, gets a shot away, scores a goal. Like that's pure football.
Yeah, I mean, Rio Ferdinand, first of all, that clip, Jesus Christ!
I'm sorry for sharing that on everyone's timeline again.
He's got to be nailed onto for the door, hasn't he? Ferdinand, God, he's just annoys me. Everything's just done for show, isn't it?
Can we include that? Yeah, I think we can.
Yeah, leave it in. In terms of Morgan Rogers, when you said to me, "Have you seen the highlights?" I thought you were on about Morgan Rogers' new haircut, which is something pretty special as well. But
did you see the clip of Emery? Like, you painted your hair?
That's it.
You painted your hair? That's good.
It's that is a class act. I don't think, there's probably some Championship connoisseurs or West Bromwich Albion Academy connoisseurs or Manchester City Academy connoisseurs who knew all about Morgan Rogers. Funnily enough, I wasn't one of them, but I feel that I do now. I know, and he only grew up down the road, Dan. Not that we've mentioned it.
But he was in Dancers only a couple of years ago.
To be fair, you're talking about some robust tackles coming in. The one that swept Ross Barkley off his feet for the opening goal was seemed to be a little bit naughty. But yeah, I thought that was a brilliant goal. The second one was a bit scruffier, wasn't it?
He almost scored just before that. I don't know whether it was in the highlights.
The one that just kind of be heading for the top corner.
Yeah, that save led to the corner that he went to score from. So yeah, a couple of great chances for him. Just quickly on Barkley as well, we'll kind of do a new signing round up in a sec. John, I'll give you the floor for that one. Quick thinking from Barkley for that to take that free kick. That was kind of clever, mature play. Whether that would be allowed to stand in the Premier League, I feel like a more egocentric referee would, no, the ball's moving, stop that. You're not allowed a quick free kick these days. But yeah, smart play from Barkley and a lovely finish from Rodgers, who looks a player who will be massively important for us this season, John. He will contribute goals and assists. Lots of them, I think.
Certainly so. I do remember seeing different posts on Twitter. I mean, Twitter's not a great scope for what everyone thinks, of course, but a few like different podcast pages from like Championship podcasts, and they were saying like, I genuinely can't see why Villa are paying this money, and it was only initial £8 million, which is a snip anyway. And it was kind of like, well, you're taking a big risk there when Monchi and Emery have gone for this player, and you're the one that's saying that they shouldn't. Kind of sounds like a you problem. But yeah, it's definitely going to be a key player. I remember saying when Ramsey got injured against Luton and then was subsequently ruled out for the season, it might sound a bit cruel, I suppose, but I did say that we're going to basically find out if Villa need Ramsey, at least in the first 11. And he kind of answered the question of we don't need to rely on him because we have everything that Ramsey can bring, or most of what Ramsey can bring, maybe a bit more raw in what Rodgers is. But you do need two players per position. So, of course, I don't want to see Ramsey leave. And he's a local lad, he's a Villa fan, etc., etc. So that wasn't me suggesting that, but kind of shows how much quality we have now in different departments of the squad. And between Ramsey and Rodgers, I don't know if they'll both start together, considering that we still have to fit McGinn in the team, considering that we might be going after a player like Felix, considering we have Bailey, Philogene. We have so many options. I don't know if Ramsey and Rodgers will start too many games together. I mean, hopefully they will, because that's going to be, something good that Villa can kind of exploit next season. Two very similar profiles, but two players that can definitely link together. But yeah, definitely going to be a key player next season. And I think he turns 22 maybe next week. I was looking at his age earlier, and I was thinking he was maybe 23 going on to 24, because he has been around for a few years now, but he's still really young. So yeah, it's crazy that people were starting to kind of write him off just because he had a couple of loan spells at Blackpool and didn't, quite set the world on fire. It's incredible what a top manager can do for a player, because he was at Blackpool not long ago and not really playing anywhere near the level that certainly not playing anywhere near the level that he's playing for at Villa now. Very confident as well. He scored 2 goals. Should have scored. He nearly scored before his second goal as well. It was kind of like a shot from the edge of the box, I think. He was dipping over the keeper, but he made a good save. So, yeah, really good 45 minutes from him yesterday.
Moving on to the next point on our list, John, I'm coming to you for this one. It's only a short thing, something that we spotted more so than anything. It was highlighted by Ian Taylor actually on the Villa TV commentary that if you notice that the Villa players have got something on their boots, and it was like a tracking thing, basically. I'm sure other clubs absolutely will be doing this. I don't know if I've seen Villa do it before. Everyone is now familiar with the kind of, what do you call them? The vests, like sports bras, basically, is what they look like with the tracking things on them underneath their shirts that they're wearing training and matches where everyone's familiar with all that kind of technology. Something new for me, at least. Anyway, I may be wrong, John. New for Villa is this boot tracking, distance run, touches taken, all this kind of stuff. Do you want to just give us a quick overview of what that was?
Yeah, I mean, I'm no expert on it either, but we spotted it.
Three of us, you are.
It's basically like a little GPS thing, or it's more advanced than the GPS, but it's a little sensor tracker, whatever you want to call it. It weighs like 6 grams, and it goes on the straps around the ankle of the boot. Around the back of the boot on your ankle or whatever. Not every player was wearing them, which was always interesting. I don't know if they kind of ran out of them or whatever. Okay. Caden Young and Louis Barry, I don't think were wearing them. And there's an image of Morgan Rogers not wearing one as well, but then I thought he was. So I'm not too sure. Maybe I missed him taking it off or putting it on, or they forgot. I don't know. But yeah, it tracks different things like I've got it here. So it tracks more than 15 football metrics, including distance covered, top speed, sprint distance, work rate, number of sprints, acceleration, deceleration, number of touches, technical balance, kick velocity, one touch, time on the ball, time to release, number of possessions. Like, that's just words, but I'm sure it looks good. On the analysts, their laptops or whatever, and they can get lots of information. I'm surprised that kind of thing hasn't been made before. I don't know if that's something they'd use in the Premier League. I don't know if there'd be a rule to say that they can't. I don't know. We know what kind of top level football's like. It's very sort of OCD with like player safety. I can imagine if someone puts in a bad tackle and still gets caught in the little thing, do you know what I mean? I don't know. As you say, this was very much a warm-up game. Not sure if it's something that you could use in the Premier League, but it's definitely something that I'm sure you could just fit into the insole of your boot eventually anyway. So yeah, it's kind of very innovative, but I'm sure it will kind of progress from there as well. So it's not just a big black thing around your boot.
Martin O'Neill should have used those in the previous pre-season tours just to stick in their trainers when they go out, when they break the curfews. Just it's kind of like a find my phone kind of thing, innit? You could just stick it in there and keep tabs on everybody, I'd have thought. But I don't know whether Unai's, well, I'm sure Unai's squad are super professional anyway, and
of course, yeah.
Unai trusts his players, so
yeah. The penultimate thing on our list, I'm going to come for you for this one, Matt, is just a reminder that it's only pre-season still. It's always important to reiterate that. Certainly in the early stages of pre-season, the Walsall game is the one that we all look forward to just because it feels nice, as we touched on, but it really means absolutely nothing in the grand scheme of things. For you, Matt, John, you'll remember this as well. Matt, I'll come to you for this one just for the sake of a different voice. Do you remember the year that Jota played and looked amazing? I think it was in one of the games against an American side. It was like, wow, this guy, he looks good. Like, he could be really handy in the Premier League next year. And then I think he barely kicked a ball for us in competitive football. Do you remember that?
He grabbed an assist, didn't he, on his home debut as well for Wesley, if I remember rightly. So
he started so well in the league as well. And just
that was it. Yeah.
Barometer. I mean, it's one of those ones when you're talking about Buendia earlier, you know, I'm sure Buendia's player of pre-season trophy that adorned his mantelpiece last summer didn't really keep him going through the frustrations of the season proper. Yeah, I think it's one of those ones. The good thing about pre-season friendlies is the sun's normally shining. You can probably see a few different grounds, except Walsall. It's not a different ground because you see it every bloody year. I think it's just that feeling of summer, isn't it? You can go in your kind of shirt sleeves or whatever. As for the football, it's kind of incidental, isn't it? You can probably see your first glimpses of players of new signings, but yeah, I'm such a crap fan I am that I used to kind of make sure I'd go to, be the reporter for a lot of years, but I used to get really excited about pre-season friendlies, and then I'd get there and I think this is all a bit meh. But although I have managed to blag myself tickets for Dortmund away, so if they don't win that game, I'm going to be calling for Emery's head.
Well, that'll be more serious by then. It's the last pre-season game, isn't it? You'll probably see, or near enough. I mean, you would like to think, unless you're Steven Gerrard, the side that starts your final pre-season game is probably what you're going to start the season with, and they'll play an hour or more, or some of them will play near enough the full game. So you'll learn more from that. We'll see more about what kind of systems we're going to play. Walsall is so far away from that.
I'm just kind of going on the point of it doesn't matter what the score is or whatever. We beat Leipzig, didn't we, away 3-1. I think they're in the Champions League with that team as well. When we just got promoted, Tommy made that crazy save. I don't know if you remember. I think Harhan scored from a free kick as well. We play Leipzig this summer, but yeah, Leipzig away. That I felt like really confident, and I shouldn't have done, that we were going to finish mid-table and have a nice easy season because we just beat a Champions League team, and yeah, it didn't happen.
New signings, that is something that is obviously interesting. The second half is when we saw the likes of Enzo and Samuel Lilling Jr. come on and play. I don't want to go through them all one by one because that probably would take up a whole episode in itself. Yeah. So you were there. There was also lots of them, yes. Give me a bit of a rundown on who stood out, I guess, from the new signings rather than telling me about all of them.
Well, we had 3 summer signings, I believe, because Maatsen obviously wasn't there. Dobbin wasn't there as well. Don't know why. I thought he would have been. yeah, I don't expect him to be in the first team next season, Dobbin, but I thought he would have been in that game. I don't know if he has an issue or whatever. So there's 3 new signings plus Joe Gauci. We hadn't seen him play before, and Costa Neveljkovic as well. I think that's all of them. So 5 players that we hadn't seen, I think. Plus, obviously, some youngsters. Firstly, really good opportunity for them to impress. Obviously, just 45 minutes, but they all looked. And also, again, saying fearless is quite a big word for a pre-season game or a pre-warm-up game or whatever you called it. But they were they got the defenders really well. They committed the opposition. They didn't just pass the ball backwards. They went at the Walsall players. So fair play to them. But yeah, we'll start with Barkley. I mean, he got the assist for.
You're going to go through them all one by one then.
I mean, there is only 3. Yeah, okay, I'll be quick. Barkley got an assist for the quick thinking. Got the assist for the first goal. His corner led to the second. Clearly just a level above, and that is to be expected. He was an England international, wants to be an England international again, so he's going to be one of the best players on the pitch, and he was. There was a couple of sloppy passes he made, to be fair. At 0-0, he played the ball across the box. I don't know if you saw that, and then Walsall played it through. Maybe you weren't watching.
Honestly, can't remember.
This might have been on the 30-minute mark. And then, Luton, what am I talking about? Walsall should have scored, but they did. It was offside. Didn't matter because it's only a pre-season game. Enzo was impressive. Tried to play quite a few fashionable balls in behind. A couple of them came off. One of them in particular was really good towards Caden Young, I think. Impressive from him. Illing Jr. I like the look of. Very physical. Should have had an assist for Bailey. Kind of midway through the second half, but Bailey kind of skewed his shot well over. But then he did get his assist for Louis Barry at the end, just literally laying it across the goal. He could have probably scored himself, but didn't. He just rolled it across. That's those 3 players, and then Costa Neveljkovic, impressive again. Clearly got a lot about. Clearly got a lot about him, and I think that's something that we probably expected to be signed by Villa at the age of 18. You've clearly got something good stature about him. Don't know everything about him, of course, after just 45 minutes, but everything that I've spoken, the people I spoke to in Serbia who spoke to me about him, all of that kind of made sense. I'm very capable physically, gets up and down the pitch very well, still slender, but he's literally 18. So, very promising. And Joe Gauci came out and collected lots of crosses. So, all in all, very positive. Nothing really bad to say, and if there was, I wouldn't say it anyway because it was first game pre-season.
Nicely done, a nice little roundup. Thank you for that, John. That wraps up our 8 things that we learned /spotted / wanted to speak about from Villa's win against Walsall in our first pre-season warm-up fixture. It's Spartak Trnava pronunciation, probably not right as John laughs, on Saturday. We'll do the same thing again. We won't do a post-match show on the Saturday evening. We'll be doing a Q&A episode on Monday where we'll talk about the game and 10 things we learned in Slovakia, whatever it is. There'll be more talking points from that pre-season game, so we will cover it, but not with a post-match live stream. Those will return from West Ham onwards, where we'll be doing them on the day of the game. Matt, thanks for joining me. John, thank you as always. Thank you for watching or listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.